a leader, where you realize that you're doing all you can to defend yourself, to protect your integrity, to hold the company together, to keep your organization afloat and moving forward, and yet every time you come up with a new statement of facts, every time you have a new revelation, if you will, and by that I mean a revealing of the truth, of the accounting numbers, of the hiring practices, of the standard operating procedures, of the safety warnings. Every time you come out with a new set of those, it seems like you're overwhelmed by the story being told on the work floor, or the story being told by the media or by your competition. And it seems like their story, even though it's void of facts, overwhelms your facts every single time. Why in the world is that true? Well, it's not just true for you, it's true everywhere. Let me try that better. Okay, how's that for a mic? Oh, wait, we're on number 4. Let's go here. Let's try that. I changed to the other mic channel. Well, one of the challenges with the narrative versus facts is that the facts themselves, well, they have to have something to stand on. Now, I know that runs counter to our belief, because what we want to believe is that truth always triumphs, and eventually, ultimately, truth will always triumph. But see, along the way, there's this competition that truth has to fight with a narrative. And if you've studied any psychology at all, what you find out is that the narrative is a very powerful force for changing human behavior. It's a very powerful force convincing people to do things differently than they have before. And it's why when you read old books, good books, you find that there are similar narratives but with different worldviews, different perspectives. So what you see in front of me today is just yesterday's haul, just one day. What I look to do as a communicator, as a leader, is to find some of those older conversations that are now being retold. To go back to some of the historical viewpoints of what has been expressed in the past and what actually happened at the time that the conversation started, to try to overlay those historical evidenced facts with some of the opinions that are being shared today. Now, I realize the opinions, the current narrative, especially if it's repeated over and over and over again, seems to hold a very powerful presence. It seems to hold a very powerful place in our society today. Media has been very effective at it. And when I say media, I mean all forms of media. Social media, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, doesn't matter. If you're talking about media, you may be talking about news agencies on the right or on the left or right down the middle, if you can find one of those. If you're talking about media, you may be talking about books. You may be talking about magazines. If anybody still reads them, newspapers. But you may also be talking about movies. Big, giant Hollywood productions. Or little feature films, or independent films, or kids' cartoons. See, all of these forms of media have one very powerful strategy, and that is they carry what we call the narrative. They tell a story that changes the way people believe something, whether the facts behind their story are true or not. Let me just take for an example, first couple of books here on the top. We have Common Sense and Rights of Man by Thomas Paine. Yep, one of our founding fathers, one of the guys who helped to write the original Declaration of Independence. We also have Warriors Don't Cry. Now, this is a story of 1957 Melba Pattillo. She turned 16. That was also the year she became a warrior on the front lines of the civil rights firestorm following the landmark 1954 Supreme Court ruling Brown versus Board of Education. Now, you may not know her name, but she was one of the high school students who helped to fight when segregation and integration were the big battlefront, and the National Guard had to be called into Little Rock High School to solve the problem. Do you think that story might be relevant today? Of course it is. How about a photojournalist who's been all over the world and seen everything from the most powerful poverty to some of the most beautiful communities rise up literally all over the world? He walks among us, photojournalist. How about how to keep your brain healthy with the food that you eat? I've heard a lot of people talk about the actual food deserts and the unbelievable diets available, especially in lower income areas. And I've experienced it. If you go spend some time, spend a couple of days in South Oak Cliff and try to find a Whole Foods, a Central Market, a health and nutrition store where you can pick up anything that will preserve your body. You're going to have a hard time doing it. You will find funeral homes and pawn shops on every corner, but what you won't find is a place to buy good, healthy food. Very few of them. Now, I know some people are working to counter that even as we speak. I shot their video last week, so I've got a pretty good idea what they're working on. But the idea that we can overwhelm a narrative, a long-term story that's been pounded into people for their lifetime with just a few random facts or a few statements, that we can just pull out a fact here or there, a statistic here or there, a data point here or there, and lay it alongside a narrative that has been so deeply seated into the belief system of a generation or two or three of people. Well, that just doesn't fly. People don't remember data points. People don't remember statistics and facts very well. What they remember is a good narrative. As a leader and a communicator, you need to understand how many times you will be lambasted by a narrative. And here's something else you got to know about a narrative. A well-crafted narrative will work, meaning it will have its effect. It will change behavior. It will alter mindsets. It will modify belief systems, even if it has no truth, no data, no statistics to back it up. A well-crafted narrative, repeatable, usable, rememberable, built on a lie, will have just as much impact. Look, if you're a leader of any sort, a communicator at any level, if you want to build influence in people's lives, you should be responsible for telling the truth. But understand that when you're countering a narrative, whether it's your brand impression, if you look at people out there on the internet today, anybody can post anything. We know that to be true. Well, almost anybody can post almost anything. Some people can post anything they want to, true or otherwise. Some people get shut down pretty quickly because what they say doesn't fit the social media narrative. But if you watch people who are trying to run a business out there and you see someone post negative reviews about them, maybe you've even heard the radio ads that are running where they talk about people who have nothing better to do than to post a whole list of negative reviews about somebody's business for the intent of tearing down their business. And the reviews don't have to have any truth to them at all. If they tell a good story, they can lie and not only get away with it, but have the reaction they wanted to have. It's true about your business. It's true in your leadership. It's true in your personnel. It's true in the attitudes that drive the workplace behavior all around you. As a leader, you need to understand that just offering some data points, offering some statistics, telling the truth, all of those are incredibly powerful things, and they all need to be true of you as a leader. But they alone will not counter a negative, especially a false negative. Nope, to counter a narrative, you need to do your homework. You need to look into the things that are being said, the things that have been said, the things that are happening right now, and then ask yourself, beyond the data points, how can I position these data points, these statistics, these facts, these historical stories, how do I position them as a counter narrative? To grow your influence as a leader, you've got to become a storyteller. But not just a storyteller who's willing to lie, manipulate, and cajole. Not a storyteller who just builds everything on emotion with no data and no facts and no statistics, but one who knows how to craft the story with the truth and tell the truth in a way that other people will listen and be emotionally connected to the truth, the facts, and the data that are truly representative of what's going on and what should be going on. As a story power coach, that is my role. That is my job. I work diligently to help people build the narrative of their own life, of their own career, so that the belief system they're driven by is based on truth. While doing that, we also find they become very effective public communicators. They take a position in the life of the people around them to be the person that others refer to when they're looking for information. because they know not only have they done their homework, not only are they true and honest about the data and the statistics, they have a balanced view of where those statistics came from and the accuracy and the verifiable truth behind them. But they also have the ability to deliver that information in a story format in a way that it actually can transform lives, because it's truth that will be held on to. Not just data, but truth that will be held on to. You cannot counter a negative narrative with just data points and facts. It won't work. Human psychology will overlook your data and your facts regardless of how true they are. If you want to counter a negative narrative, you've got to create a powerful, truthful narrative with all the data and all the statistics to back it up. Take the time and do your research. And no, social media isn't the only form of research out there. Even Google has been known to delete content that was negative or delete content that didn't suit their narrative. If you want to be a powerful leader, do your homework, buy some old books, do some reading, get to know the other points of view, and then craft your narrative around that truth. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.